I was fully aware when the FF6 call arrived, and I still managed to get it late somehow. Consequence of procrastination, I guess. The second part of the FF6 color has been arrived, and with that, 3 more new units. First with Celes, as she is a warrior who is focused on negating enemies' magic attack. Celes is an ice warrior whose whole mechanic revolving around this basic passive of her is essentially called a runic barrier. Basically, whenever she has runic barrier up, she will nullify any magic attack done to any teammate. It doesn't have to hit her. As long as the enemy do a magic attack, even if it's AoE, she would negate that attack, and also passively inflict an attack and magic down debuff onto that enemy. In addition to the defensive power that Celes has, Celes can consistently deal a very high amount of hit. With her 8-hit ice can easily spammable, and she also has a 10-hit ice, which costs a bit more in terms of SP, so you might not spend that as much. Might as well use that as like the main looking skill, so you can just like spam the 8-hit ice most of the time. And then beside that, she can also grant ultimate attack and magic up, which I'll be honest here, like any other support can like grant these buffs, but like way better. But Celes doesn't have any other strong points, so I guess this is technically a strong point. Ultimate buff is always appreciated, so. As for how to play Celes, her whole mechanic is revolving around the runic barrier, and runic barrier is obtained by spending boost point. So all you have to do is you spend boost point, and you just got a runic barrier. When the enemy attack you with a magic attack, that attack will be negated. Celes will get 3 boost point back, and then you can use that boost point again to cast more skill, and then passively you will also gain the runic barrier again. It's an endless cycle of spending BP, gaining BP, and then gaining runic barrier. Now, as for my main skill, General Victorious Blade is the main one you would use, mainly because that one is a 8-hit. 8-hit if you have SP stock, which is also granted runic barrier, which is very easy to obtain. Because you just need the enemy to negate the magic attack. Even if the enemy doesn't, there's other way for it to gain SP stock, so this will always be a hit most of the time. And plus she also has a passive which she reduces SP spent, so this skill won't even cost that much SP. Other than that, her main new skill should be Spinning Edge. There's also like another one, but like that one has a 3-hit and it's gonna run into damage cap problem. This one is better, but it saps a lot of Celes SP though, and it won't be affected by the SP reduction on her passive, so you can only use this mostly when the enemies break to do a big damage. And then Blizzaga is her AoE DPS skill. Honestly, you're gonna use AoE DPS skill, hopefully you have some other ice DPS like Eltrix, Rondo, Cast the EX. Her Ice DPS AoE skill isn't that high, and her ultimate is technically also Ice DPS AoE, but the damage is also isn't that high, so but this is like the only other skill she has that is an AoE that also inflict Frostbite, which also give bonus to her ultimate and other skills sometimes, so it's her third best skill. Now for her Awakening priority, she is good at technically at A0, but Awakening wise, A1 go for extra stat. AU is fine because her ultimate isn't that strong, you only need 1 copy battle anyway. And her A4 is not really worth it compared to most of the character A4. It just grants SP stock and that's it, which isn't like that useful compared to something like Terra straight up give you a free ult back after using an ultimate. So now for review, so let's get 7 out of 10. When the fight is the enemy use a lot of magic attack or the enemy only use magic attack, Celes excel really well, because imagine getting your enemy attack every single time and also gain SP stock and 3 boost point back every single time that she does that. It's very, very strong, and she does decent damage, not that high compared to the other FF6 color character, but it's decent, and also a decent hit count, decently high hit count. However, that is all in. The biggest problem with Celes is that she is more on the defensive side, and on the defensive side, please reminder, we have Shauna who can just like negate your death for 2 turns. So negating magic attack is nice, granting 3 boost point back and SP stock to self is nice, but like we literally have a unit that didn't just like negate that except for overkill. So defensive isn't that important of a aspect to have. And on top of that, her damage isn't high, and when the fight an enemy is only pure physical attack or they really do any magic attack at all, most of Celes passive revolving around the whole runic barrier thing kind of need to the enemy attack to be negated from the magic attack for it to work. So if the enemy doesn't use magic attack, Celes power go down by a lot. So in the end, she just kind of become a mediocre unit when that situation happened. So overall, she is the worst unit of this collab. Of all the 6 units on this collab, she is the worst one. However, even though she's the worst one, she is still decently strong. In normal fight, assuming that the enemy used magic attack at the time, she is usable, and she is still really good in Ice Team, even though Ice Team is kind of overshadowed by the Rainbow Team and any other team, so... Actually, forget that. She's not even that mandatory Ice Team. You can run an Ice Team without Celes and you'll be fine. So, you get Celes, she's fine. She can work, but don't expect her to be on the same level as other FF6 character. Next is Setzer. He's a hunter, and he showed in Kingdom Hearts 2, and that's how the only way I know him because I haven't not played FF6 yet. Anyway, Setzer is a hunter. He is a hunter more on the support side, but he can also do quite a lot of damage by himself. Setzer's whole mechanic is weakness implant. And like most of the character, yes, he is a form of weakness bypass, like Medusa EX, like Dark Priestess. What he does special though is that he implants the weakness passively, and he frees them. Frees them as in that if you do hit that weakness implant will not be removed. So it might as well the moment you implant a single weakness, that weakness will stay as long as the freeze duration is up. Other than the weakness implant freeze that Setzer has, he can also buff bow potency up by 100%, which makes him really good in bow team, and he can work really well with Fen, for example. But Fen is like it's like a weird case where he only does physical and he doesn't explore any elemental, and Setzer's weakness is that he only implants elemental weakness, so in some cases Fen might not even be able to benefit from the weakness implant that Setzer implemented because Fen only hit physical, so... Other than that, he also passively buff and debuff the enemy based on how much implant stack the enemy has. Assuming that you want to have the highest stack as possible, around like 7 stack for the maximum effect from this passive. As for how to play Setzer, turn 1 you max with EX skill because this is your only way to implant the weakness freeze, 7 hit and also freeze all implant. On turn 2 this is optional, but you can then use the Trick King, which is like a extra implant, fire and dark, so you can reach the 7 stack up implant that require for your buff and bonus. Technically this is not mandatory, you can just like use any other character in the back row or like behind or in front of Setzer you want. But this is like the fastest way to getting to 7 stack. And then eventually when the enemy is broken, use the ultimate and hopefully the enemy has 9 stack of any weakness implant, and doing so will grant a potency damage bonus to the ultimate, and Setzer is gonna deal a lot of damage with his ultimate. Now for Setzer recommended skill, Dice is good because you will passively inflict elemental 2 elemental implant at the end of turn. However, that can be random and it might not be the one you get. So Dice might help you get the one you get instead, even though it's not that reliable and you might need to reset some time. It's like the fastest way to implant more elemental weakness onto the enemy without waiting for the passive. Either that or you break the enemy. Slot Mega Flare is his fire hit AoE bow that also inflict elemental rest down. I picked this because I assuming that you are probably using Setzer with the Rainbow team and the Rainbow team would be appreciating this. But if you're not using this with Rainbow team, there's another skill, which is like a 4-hit skill that also inflicts physical rest down. You can switch it out for that. But if you're using Setzer with Rainbow, this one is an extra hit, and it's also inflict elemental rest down. And then you have Trick King, which is... wait, Trick King? Oh, I just realized you can read that together. Trick King. Trick King. You can use the skill to do more implant stack into the enemy, and that at the implant you do at the end of turn, instead of inflicting 2 random elemental implant, you were inflicting 4 instead because Trick King also increased the number of implant Setzer does so. Now for his Awakening priority, Setzer really want Awakening ultimate, mainly because this ultimate deals so much damage. In some team though, he would just be using his EX skill and just sit in the back row forever, which is fine. But when he does go in the front and deal damage, for example, using him in both team because he is technically a bow DPS, he will deal a lot of damage with his ultimate, so you do want to get a second usage of that. And also charge 200% faster to use the multiplier bonus from getting to 100% ultimate. A1 as usual, extra status useful for DPS. A4 is really bad, honestly. His A4 is really bad for like an A4 standard. It's BP region, which is like, you can get that on standard character. It's not worth it to go for it at all, unless you really like Setzer, I guess. Now for Setzer reveal, I am giving him 8 out of 10, and for Rainbow Team specifically, 9 out of 10. Why Rainbow Team specifically is that this Lynette EX existing. Lynette EX is, she has a skill that inflicts all 6 elemental weakness on turn 1. So if you have Setzer, and turn 1 you go, you freeze the enemy, And then you have Lynette go and you have her use her EX skill to inflict all 6 elemental weakness onto the enemy. Then from the start of turn 1, the enemy is already weak to all 6 forms of element, and they are already suspect to all form of elemental hit, and so they can be shield shaping faster. This is great because 1. Setzer freeze implant lasts for a long time, so unlike Medusa EX or Dark Priestess, you do not have to worry about recasting it. And 2. Setzer do this on turn 1, while Medusa and Priestess is doing this on turn 3 minimum. Medusa have to wait for the playful stack on turn 3, and Dark Priestess need to charge of her ultimate, and then her ultimate buff might run out, so for Rainbow Team, do try to get Setzer for that team. You'll be fine without him though, like you're already using Medusa EX or Dark Priestess, technically you don't need him. You're just gonna suffer from the fact that you're gonna be 2 turns late setting this up, and that the buff is not permanent, kind of ish like Setzer is, so other than the Rainbow Team, he is also really good in both team as the main DPS. Do be noted though that, like I said, Fen won't benefit from this because I checked and that Fen has no DPS skill that can explode elemental, and Setzer only implant elemental weakness, so you might have problems sometime with Fen would not be able hitting bow weakness at all, so do be cautious of that. And other than Rainbow Team and Bow Team I just mentioned, in any other team he's kind of like a side grade to Medusa and Dark Priestess, you don't need him there, you already have one of those two. And last for this collab is Relm, which in Japanese her name is Ridumu, which she said so much that I might as well mistake it for another character with a very similar name who's like a blue slime. Anyway, as for what Relm does, Relm is DPS of neutral damage. This is rare because neutral damage is extremely rare in this game. The last time I remember seeing this was like Ophelia EX in the FF4 collab, but now we have our first ever true, extremely high neutral DPS. And this is elemental neutral, so even though this has no element, it's still elemental damage in the end. What Relm does can be summarized up in 3 things. 1, she is doing very high E neutral DPS, which is again elemental neutral. 2, she has a very easy to trigger FUA that can go up to a 3 hit. All you need to do is for just any allies to hit the enemy weakness. And 3, thanks to her paint mechanic, it doesn't apply to only herself, it applies to all allies too. When they have the corresponding paint, they can have the weakness. So even though Ridumu Relm is a DPS, she can very much serve as a pseudo weakness bypass character, like Setzer, like Medusa, like Dark Priestess. As for how to play Relm, it is very simple. On turn 1, just cast the Dream Stooge. What Dream Stooge does is that it grants Relm red, blue, and yellow paint, but thanks to her passive, it will also grant her and everyone else orange, green, and purple paint, which combined together in a single cast skill. Relm has already granted 6 paint to herself. Each paint represents a different element, and because of the paint mechanic, Relm on turn 1 can already hit any weakness with a single cast of the Dream Stooge, as long as it's elemental. And then on turn 3, when you have EX skill available, you will cast Lakshmi. What this EX skill does is that it grants Relm a boost point region, also heal everyone, that's a bonus. But the most important part is that her next 3 skills she casts will be a double cast. This is important. If you want to deal big damage with Relm, you will always cast this on turn 3, or whenever, just cast it sometime before the enemy is broken. And then after that, just go and use Ultros, and use a 16 tentacle spam to deal like massively high damage. By the way, do note that at 9 stack of paint, it will turn into infinite paint, as in the paint will have infinite duration, which this will count toward her FUA stack, so the more infinite paint she has, the more damage she does. And the way to do this is Yashana is a very easy way to guarantee 3 infinite paint by turn 3. Turn 1, you max boost the Dream Stooge. This will grant 5 turns of red, blue, and yellow paint on Relm. Turn 2, you go in front and cast Shana ES skill to gain 3 boost point back. You know, Shana just use any other character that restore boost point. Turn 3, you switch out Relm again, cast her ES skill, Lakshmi, to grant 6 turns of the red, blue, and yellow paint on Relm herself. By this time, the paint that you got on the first turn from 5 turns, the duration will go down to 3 turns. 3 plus 6 perfectly end up at 9. So at 9, on turn 3, you'll get 3 infinite paint, which result in 2 hit FUA for your team, so for Relm specifically. Now for recommended skill, you just technically need only 2, the third skill just pick whatever you want. The main 2 skill you need, like I said, is the Dream Stooge for the immediately all 6 paint grant to Relm on turn 1, And the Ultros, which is the main new skill, is an 8-hit tentacle, becomes 16-hit double cast, so... Skill 3 can be anything you want, honestly, Relm doesn't really have any good skill 3. I put a dragon because it's the other AoE skill beside her ultimate, but you want to do AoE elemental neutral damage, her ultimate is better, so... As for awakening priority, make sure that you get A1 first and make sure you try to go for A4. A4 is actually useful because it grants you the paint at the start of battle, and this can go on any character. So in a way, this is you can grant any character exploit to fire, ice, or lightning, so this is kind of useful. Not that mandatory to have, but if you're going for those, then do try to go for Relm A1 and then do go for A4. Her ultimate is strong, but like her Ultra skill is stronger, the 16-hit random is stronger. So one copy of ultimate is good enough. I don't think you would want Relm in a situation where you have to use AoE damage anyway. Relm excel in single target scenario. In AoE scenario, you might just bring someone else instead. Now for review, Relm get 9.5 out of 10. Now I would say, okay, in JP without Suck, as in there's no rainbow, Relm at the time when she was released, she was extremely strong. A unit who has a consistently 2 to 3 hit FUA, who has all 6 elemental weakness exploit by herself, who has a very strong self-buffing skill in the form of EX skill, who has very high damage in the form of Ultros that was extremely all-powerful. And so because of all of that, a DPS with a very strong FUA, who also has exploit and can grant the exploit to everyone, she was considered like the top tier unit, as in like she would be 10 out of 10 worthy. However, in global I think it's slightly different because we have Rainbow Team here. Realm power and the whole Rainbow Team power, they're not that far from each other, but I say that the Rainbow Team excel one thing is that extremely high amount of hit thanks to Zug, thanks to Lynette, and now like thanks to Setzer even supporting them even further, it make Relm as like not the only top tier option that is available in global. So hence why I kind of lowered it down to 9.5, even though I kind of want to make it a 10, but global is a bit different. She is extremely self-sufficient, as in she does not need specific teammate. Rainbow biggest problem is that unless you've been here for a long time, it's like a long time player, Rainbow require a lot of specific unit, Oswald, and then Sucks, especially Suck, and then you have to get Lynette EX, which is a summer limited unit. You kind of need to get many unit from many different type of banner to get it to work on the Rainbow team, so it's not an easy to build team. So, you want like an easy to play, just like one unit solo team, then Relm is way better. And remember, she is so self-sufficient she can work on any team. Her damage will be high thanks to her EX skill, and she will give support capability to everyone else in the form of her own damage FUA, and also in the form of her paint exploit. So because of that, put her on Ice team, put her on Rainbow team, put her on Bow team or even Dark Knight team, she will work and she will still do a high damage and she will still support that team. That is how strong Relm is. Now at the end of everything, as a quick ranking for all of the 6 FF6 unit arrived now, the strongest character is, I still think, is Relm. Setzer is very strong for Rainbow team, but only had Rainbow team, so I would rank him second. Or Edgar, which is kind of hard because Edgar is kind of strong, he's like a signal bit better. So top 3 is undoubtedly Relm, Setzer, and Edgar. You kind of switch around Setzer and Edgar depending on your situation of your team though. 4th is Locke, 5th is Terra, and 6th is Celes, which is kind of sad. I mean, she's kind of decent, but like the other 5 is just better. If you're gonna pull, you can only pull for one part on this banner, on this 2 banner, part 1, part 2. Pick part 2 because part 2 contains Celes and Relm and Setzer. Those 2 are extremely strong and they will also have very long-term value too. You want to do Rainbow team, technically you can bid both Setzer and Relm, even though she feel like a Rainbow DPS, but she's not a Rainbow DPS, okay?